All right, hello everyone, and welcome today for another of our Ask Here live studio sessions. My name is Adnan Malam Hassan. I am a student recruitment officer at Memorial, and I am also a graduate of the university. And today we are very happy to have with us Dr. Heather Hare, who is the Associate Dean of Undergraduate Programs from the School of Social Work. And we also have Miss Samantha Kenny, who is the Student Liaison Officer from the School of Social Work as well. So just before we get started, I have a couple of housekeeping items to go over. First of all, this session is going to be recorded. So if you're participating, you're consenting to that. Your mics are going to be muted and your videos normally be turned off to help us facilitate the session and to keep the bandwidth low. If you have any questions, please use the chat feature that we have and we will try to answer as much questions as you have. Today's focus will be, of course, about the School of Social Work. So we want to keep our questions related to that. If you have any other questions, you can still ask them in the chat, or you can send us any email at ask.ca. So let's get started here. I will allow my colleagues from the School of Social Work to introduce themselves and to tell us about the roles that they have within the university. You are, Dr. Hare, you're actually muted.
Great way to start. Thanks. Good afternoon. I'm Heather Hare. I'm currently the Interim Dean as well as the Associate Dean for Undergrad Programs, and I've been with the School of Social Work since 2008.
Awesome. And we also have Miss Samantha Kenny.
Hi, well, I am Samantha Kenny. I am the Student Liaison Officer with the School of Social Work. Basically what that means is a big part of my role is academic advising and recruitment for prospective BSW students. So if you're a first-year student or, well, any year student, and you're interested in pursuing a degree in social work, certainly get in touch with me. I'd be your point of contact for any questions you might have. And I'm also a graduate of MUN's social work program, the BSW program. So, I'm here to answer any questions about pursuing a degree in social work and a social work career.
Awesome. So to start with, we'll just start with some general questions here. So can you tell us a bit more about the School of Social Work and the different programs that you have for students who are here right now?
Sure. Before I begin that, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Samantha and myself the land on which we are residing at this point. Is historical lands of the Beothuk people who unfortunately were wiped out due to the impact of colonization, but continues to be part of the land of Newfoundland and Labrador, as known in Canada as the homelands of the Innu, Inuit, and Mi'kmaq peoples. I say this on our behalf as white settlers to remind us of our responsibility towards the decolonization, not only of ourselves, but also our discipline of social work and move towards what the university is calling the indigenization of our education. So I wish first to say that. We are currently living in extraordinary times. 2021 is going to be a year many of us are going to want to forget. It's a time of increasing fear and uncertainty. But it's also becoming a time, and we've seen recently, when we are hearing voices around the globe that are rising against systemic racism and decolonization and speaking out for social justice and social action. If you, as a student entering Memorial University or somewhere on your path of your education, if you're interested or curious, committed to, and perhaps passionate that all peoples, no matter their race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, age, faith, or ability, should they have equal and equitable access to food, shelter, education, and health and mental health services, if this is something that helps to keep you alive, then we encourage you to consider social work. But what is it? Social work has a very interesting history. And I want to expand perhaps your ideas of what that is as a discipline and as a profession. Social work is a profession. It's committed to the actualizing of social justice, decolonization, equity, and accessibility for individuals, families, groups, and communities. Social work practice can look very different in terms of roles and jobs, but social workers are tied together by 6 core values of respect, social justice, service to humanity, integrity, competence, and confidentiality. The Memorial University School of Social Work is a professional school. It's one of our number of professional schools within the university. And we are Newfoundland and Labrador's only provider of social work education. We have a BSW, a Bachelor of Social Work, an MSW, a Master's in Social Work, as well as a PhD. And we are the PhD in Social Work for Atlantic Canada. Our programs are accredited with the Canadian Association of Social Work Education, which might sound like so much like who cares, but actually is a very important part of your education to think about. When you have been accredited nationally, then you can be sure of wherever you might go that your degree will be recognized in Canada and actually around the world. Our Bachelor of Social Work has 2 streams, a first and a second degree. I'm going to focus on our first degree program for those of you who are incoming first-year students. Both degrees, the first and second degree, are full-time and have a generalist focus. This means that the aim of our program is to graduate students with a broad knowledge, diverse skills, and the essential values associated with the social work profession. Students learn through teaching, through research and practice opportunities. It includes 2 350-hour field practica or internships within the communities, not only of Newfoundland and Labrador, but outside our province as well, if that's something you choose. Ours is a competitive program with particular university prerequisite courses, which Samantha will speak to in a moment. We are not a direct entry program from high school. Typically, Memorial students enter our program as they're going into their second year of their undergraduate degree. Our graduating students are positioned to engage with individuals, families, groups, communities, and institutions locally, nationally, and globally in order to effectively co-create change. But what does that look like? What does social work look like on the ground? Like once I get my BSW, what can I look forward to? What do I do when I graduate? Well, I can assure you there's a number of avenues that you could go forward in with a BSW. Some example from our alumni are working in community agencies. They're called non-government agencies, community centers, nonprofits, as well as advocacy groups. Work for government agencies such as justice or child welfare or health or mental health and addictions. Work in private practice. Eventually, ideally, you get your MSW. Work with individuals, families, and groups. Work in policy development, program development, and administration. Or certainly, we like to encourage our students to consider continuing their education for a master's degree and perhaps a law degree or a PhD. That's at least an overview of our program and something that I feel quite excited about as we continue to move forward as a discipline in this province. But I'm going to turn it over now to Samantha because Samantha is actually our in-house expert of all things that are detailed for those of you who are interested in, so what does it mean if I want to apply?
So I can talk briefly program, or in the interest of time, we're about 10 minutes in. Would you rather we just take questions that students have? What do you think, Edna?
Well, we can start with some questions if you want, and after that, if we have some time, you can talk about programs and how to apply. Actually, we already have a first question, but first of all, thanks, Dr. Hare, for this amazing introduction. I really enjoyed it, and I think you made a great point saying that this year, more than ever, the world seems very united, and it seems to be a great time for students to jump into a program like social work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So first question that we have is more specifically with the MSW is, have Indigenous worldviews been incorporated in any of the social work programs?
Do you want me to start with that? Specifically to the MSW program?
Yes.
Okay, I think I can speak to all of our degree programs in response to that. I'm very happy and quite pleased and proud to say that within our social work program, we have been integrating Indigenous knowledge and ideas for a lot longer than it's become more of a higher profile priority within the university. We have faculty who are committed to including the knowledge of our First Peoples of this land and do so individually within their courses. The regrettable part I have is that we still don't have a unique course within social work that focuses on working with Indigenous peoples, but we're working towards that. I also like to mention that as part of the a degree for the BSW, there's an expectation that students need to complete at least 3 courses with an Indigenous focus. Typically, they would find those courses within humanities and social sciences. Do you want to speak a bit more to that, Samantha?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of, I guess, the Indigenous content in the courses, 3 of those courses are undergraduate courses that come from what we call Learning Objective 3. So as part of some of the general electives within the program, as well as you can take it as a prerequisite. So there's various courses from different disciplines that explore Indigenous knowledge. Some first-year courses that I know of are Archaeology 1005, and then there's also Archaeology 2414, I believe is really popular and generally pretty available each semester. In addition to that, I think it's important to note that our school has been very involved in trying to, I guess, move forward in terms of truth and reconciliation. And more recently, over the past year, we were involved in a really exciting pilot project, and Heather and I were very involved in that project. And it was a partnership with the Indigenous Student Resource Center. And it actually involved bringing elders from Indigenous communities in Newfoundland and Labrador on campus, and some of the classes got to participate in their teachings and activities. So I think we're not there yet, but we're certainly actions within our course content as well as activities available in the school.
I think I'd also like to mention that our commitment to reconciliation with Indigenous people in this land goes back to our, I think is certainly punctuated by our involvement with the Nunavut government when a few years ago we developed and co-developed a BSW program that completed and offered within Labrador and Happy Valley Goose Bay. And we're currently engaged in a partnership with the Nunavut Arctic College as part of a university-wide agreement with the Arctic College to develop a BSW program specific for the Inuit peoples of that land. So we could go on, but I'm sure there's other questions.
Yeah, that's awesome, and thanks for all these details. Also, I would like, a student is asking, so how do I prepare for a successful first year within the School of Social Work?
I can take that question. I think when coming into university, if you're coming in for your first year and planning to apply to social work, so our application deadline is March 1st, 2021 would be our next one for a fall 2021 start. If you're planning on applying, it will be ensuring that you're taking the appropriate courses. So there are 10 prerequisites required. However, there's a variety of combinations you can take for those prerequisites. So certainly checking in with either academic advising or myself, I'm happy to review your registration just to make sure you're on the right track. I would say definitely attend any information sessions around the actual application, because for a lot of students, this application really could be their first, the first they've ever filled out, so there's lots to learn about putting your best application forward. And students do report that when they attend the information sessions, they feel like they have a lot more clarity on how to put forth a competitive application. And lastly, marks, it is a competitive program. Completing the prerequisites does not guarantee a seat. So the higher the grades, the better. So certainly focusing on achieving the best you can in terms of your academics. And so get in touch, reach out. Don't hesitate to contact me directly. I'm meeting with students all the time through video conference. So if you have any questions, just let me know and I'm happy to help.
Awesome. And speaking of application, it seems that our students are very well aware that they need this verified volunteer and working component pod to come to apply to the School of Social Work. But right now, with the COVID situation, how is the School of Social Work assessing this component?
So for the first degree program, there's 60 hours of verified work experience, volunteer experience, and or community involvement in the human services related to social work. So that is one of the prerequisites that students must have when they apply. In terms of COVID-19, this is a big question I'm getting, and Heather and I have had multiple conversations about it. But while the COVID-19 pandemic has globally impacted the delivery of services for many agencies, our application requirements have not changed with regards to the experience requirement. And if the pandemic has impacted your ability to gain relevant in-person experience, we would encourage you to seek out remote or online opportunities. And just remember that social work is a diverse field, and in our current global situation, many agencies have transitioned to remote service delivery.
Right. And Dr. Hare, do you have anything to add to that, or did Samantha cover pretty much?
Oh, Samantha's doing an excellent job of covering it.
Awesome. And just following that as well, we have another question related to the verified volunteering hours is, do you have any tips of where they could actually find those placements if they're not sure where to actually find them now?
So we don't recommend specific experiences or offer, advice on specific agencies or anything like that. However, what I always tell students is to review our definition of experience. So that will be on our website and as well in the calendar. And it's the blurb that I would have just read out in terms of verified experience. And just really think about the experiences you've had in the past, and are they related to human service? Are they related to social work? If you're not sure, maybe, take Social Work 1710. You'll learn all about the profession and maybe be able to connect some of your experiences to meet requirements, as well as, you can always do your own research on, what social work roles and responsibilities are. And, we don't expect you, obviously, for a student applying to social work, they're not going to have social work experience because that's what they want to get as an end goal. So it's more about looking at the duties and responsibilities of the experiences you have and, really connecting how they might relate to social work.
Awesome. Yeah, knowing that they can find experience that relates to social work is really important. And switching gears now, we have a different type of question, and a student asking, why should a former Bachelor of Social Work graduate consider the Masters of Social Work at Memorial University?
I'd be happy to respond to that, at least initially, and I'm sure Samantha might have additional information. The BSW degree within Newfoundland and Labrador in particular gains access to a variety of different job opportunities. But also there's a ceiling that you find as you move forward professionally, not only in your practice, but also in the knowledge you've gained. A master's degree provides an opportunity for a student to think differently, to be more critically reflective, to have an opportunity to explore ideas and look at their practice from a different perspective, and obviously gain more knowledge as well. And it's that opportunity that then lends students the chance to apply for different kinds of jobs. MSWs are more and more needed now in order to get into certain areas of practice, such as policy development, working within mental health and addictions. If you have a desire to start your own practice in sort of a counseling type practice, that's a strong recommendation in order to be able to know that you have explored a diversity of viewpoints that could be helpful to your practice as you move forward. So I think furthering anyone's education is an opportunity to expand our ways of thinking, and I would always encourage anyone to do that. And that again is also a competitive degree. And it's done through online or remote, as well as intensive institutes, and is designed, at least at Memorial, for people who've had already 2 years of experience and usually are practicing already and are registered as social workers. So they're coming in with lots of experience to interweave into the knowledge that they gain. Hopefully
And can the MSW be done fully online as well?
Yes, we do. Of course, in our new world right now, everything's being done remotely. But if we should ever, when we should get back to campus, there are institutes built into the MSW program where they would come on campus for a week at a time or 2 weeks at a time.
Awesome. Thanks so much for responding to that question. And Samantha, I'll come back to the volunteer hours. It seems that this caught the attention of our audience today. And another student is asking, so for the volunteer hours, do you need to complete it within the most recent 2 semesters, or can it be completed anytime before that?
I just have to apologize because my dog just rudely interrupted us. So I can't guarantee that he won't decide to bark at the person on my street again. So experience. It's the most questions I get about the BSW application. There's no time limit around when the hours need to be or were completed. What we don't consider hours that are dated after an application has been submitted. So I always, especially students who are coming from high school, I always encourage them to think about, the types of things they did in high school in terms of maybe work or volunteer or community involvement and how they might relate to social work. And while I'm on the topic of experience, I also like to note that you can include experiences that are unpaid or paid. And there seems to be a common belief that it's just volunteer work. So I always like to clarify that whether or not it's paid, it's not going to impact your application. And then when accessing experience, the readers of the applications consider relevance in terms of relevance to social work, number of hours. So there's the minimum for the first degree would be 60 hours. However, some students apply with many more than that. And then we also look at diversity in terms of, the number of experiences or the number of roles within various experiences that you perform.
Awesome. Yeah. That's a really good for them to know. Also, one of the students would like to know that since they're starting to study online now, how can they connect with each other while studying online?
I can answer that question.
Yeah.
So first of all, a bit tricky because first-year students aren't in a cohort with other social work students. So once you're admitted to the School of Social Work, if you apply and you're accepted, then you would be within a cohort and be with your classmates. But in terms of overall in the university, I mean, they're doing a fantastic job of, student resources coming up with ideas that we've never had before to connect on Brightspace. The MUN 101 is great to go in there and just see what an online course shell looks like, really, to get started in advance.
I'd like to, sure.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I'd just like to add that I think one of the things that makes our BSW program quite unique for maybe perhaps compared to some other units within Memorial is that each cohort really develops an identity of their own. Each cohort develops their own Facebook page that's theirs. They connect a lot with each other. The third years have a lot of involvement shaping orientation for our second year. So we're right now in the middle of finalizing our orientation for our incoming students. It's all going to be online, giving them lots of opportunities to meet each other, as well as students in years previous. Once the students are admitted, they'll be in classes together. So we're looking at a cohort of 60. So, well, actually 75 of our second degree students. So it's actually quite relatively small, and people do get to know each other and work a lot together with the variety of different classes. So once they're in, I think people start feeling, I'm trusting they're feeling quite welcome quite early on.
Yeah, for sure. So it seems that the best place for them to connect would definitely be on the Brightspace shell, and also on Facebook as well. As you mentioned, they have a couple of Facebook groups that they could connect in there. Yeah, awesome. And since we're talking about online learning as well, what kind of platform will the classes be hosted on? Is that going to be a combination of WebEx, Zoom, or is it going to be more on Brightspace?
I believe what's been shared with instructors is to use a combination of Brightspace and WebEx.
A combination of Brightspace and WebEx, yeah. Awesome. And since we have a lot of first-year students as well here, what is the one thing you would like all of first-year students to know before they start their program in a couple of weeks now?
Just one thing. I guess in terms of a first-year student interested in, applying to work, I would definitely say, focus on your grades because it is a competitive entry program. So the higher the grades, the better. In terms of your experience, focus on and relevance. And then, don't hesitate to reach out. I meet with students throughout the year and sometimes they've been so hesitant to connect and ask the questions of what they need to know. And, do it early. If you have a question about the program, let me know. We can set up a meeting and you can have the information, earlier than the week before March 1st, which is the deadline. So certainly don't hesitate to reach out. And that was way more than one, sorry.
Well, yeah, but I think one can have different parts to it. How's that? I would like to add to that for students who are curious about social work, wondering what it is, wondering what's included with it, we have a compulsory gateway, what we call it our gateway course. It's the course they need to take in order to get in, and that's Social Work 1710. It's like an introduction to the knowledge and history of social work. It's been developed as an online course for a number of years. It's well developed, excellent instructors, and it's being offered this fall. There's at least 3 sections being offered. The maximum of students is 50 students per cohort, so there's a chance to get to know the instructor. You need to take that in the fall or the winter. This summer, we actually ran it for the first time for grade 12 students, and had a really exciting response. I think the other thing, as part of my one thing, is to really encourage students to know that the social work faculty are diverse. We have interesting ideas. We have a number of different people who come from various different backgrounds and different identities. So don't hesitate to go onto our website and to check us out.
Awesome. And we have a little bit less than 2 minutes, and we have one more question which we will try to squeeze in. Time just flies. There's a student asking for educational equity in the application process. Would conditions like depression, anxiety, or ADHD be similarly considered as normal applicants?
We definitely have. If you look at our section in the regulations I know regulations can be dull and boring, but there is an important section within our section of the undergraduate calendar where we speak about creating as many opportunities for equity for students for whatever reasons they might be coming in. And certainly those are the important things to note on your application.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure students have much more questions, or if they don't want to ask now, they can certainly follow us with us at ask@mun.ca. But yeah, we will wrap this session today. I would like to thank Dr. Hare and Ms. Samantha Kenny for answering all the questions that the students have today and who are about to begin very shortly. And just a reminder as well that these Ask Studio will be hosted every Wednesday and Friday at 2 p.m. Newfoundland time. So be sure to tune into those sessions because they're very valuable for you. And our next session on Friday will actually be on health and wellness services. So once more, if you have any other questions, you can email us at ask@mun.ca. Those videos will actually also be posted on our Breastplate Shell and on YouTube as well. And yeah, thanks so much everyone who joined us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, stay safe, and we'll see you soon, whether it's online or in person. And yeah, take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.